I know Marshall. He and I we got good history. So he could have given you some dirt, I'm sure, but you're being kind. Actually, I think I got dirt on you, man. Who wants to know some good stuff? Yo, this is crazy. Who'd have even thought? I just saw this meme the other day. It was just like, it was like in 2015 when people said, like, I wonder where we'll be 5 years from now. It was like no one got that one right, like 5 years ago. Nobody would have ever thought that it was gonna look like this or whatever. But actually, this little shindig, I don't know whose idea it was tonight, is actually is pretty legit. Oh, there he is. What's up, dude? Oh, you got it. You said this is your house. Taught him in seminary. So I used to teach seminary at Lehigh, and we lived same neighborhood as Marshall's family, and that's how we got to know each other. And that's why you got stuck for just a couple minutes, I promise. One, you got food, and two, we're heading out of town. So if I don't get back, I don't know where I'll sleep for this little trip that we're going on. But because English class ended early and y'all didn't get a sufficient amount of instruction, I'm gonna read y'all this quote from a man that none of you ever will care to know about. He lived during the Civil War times. Super famous writer. If you're a writer, maybe you're into him. His name is Henry David Thoreau. He's most famous for going out to this pond that people go visit still today. It's called Walden Pond. And he just wanted to live by himself, like a monk kind of, just solo, and wrote while he was there. And it's become this really famous essay, and every English teacher in the world has a kind of a love interest in Henry David Thoreau. But this is what he said one time about that little journey that he went on. I don't know if that even sounds interesting to anyone. Sometimes it's I kind of long for stuff like that, and other times I think, what a crazy guy. Just yesterday, my nephew's doing summer sales out in Florida, and it's not going super well, and their manager is kind of going to shut down shop. And I was like, what are you going to do? And he says, well, my manager has this hookup in Nepal where we can go for a month and move from Buddhist monastery to Buddhist monastery and just meditate for a month. Wow. And are you 50-50 on that? I don't know. Half of me is that would be legit. And then another half of me is I might jump off the monastery after 6 days or something. I don't know. But this is kind of what he lived. And he said this: I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what I had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not ever really lived. And I don't know much about his essays or his life, but I love that line so much. The thought of, I don't want to look back on life and realize that I didn't ever actually live. And what's interesting is, I like that word where he says deliberate. It's I went so I could live deliberately. Because your schedule could be full and your heart could be empty at the same time. That's just a fact and a reality of life. And so I've always wanted to kind of sink my teeth into that word. How do I live deliberately? How do I have this soul satisfying life? And it's interesting that life can satisfy your soul, but you have to do it deliberately in order for it to happen. So I just have 4 quick bits of advice for that I have found, and most of these I've learned from people right before they've left this life, which I think gives them validity, because you can't get it from a 35-year-old, how to live life deliberately. I'm the wrong expert for that. But most of the stuff comes from people who have, and I've kind of looked up to as mentors, and this is what they've taught me. Number 1 is, I call it drop your bucket. There was this sea captain that was in the South Atlantic Sea, and they ran out of fresh water on the boat, and this other ship was passing by, and so they signaled them, and they came over close to it, and they said, we have no water. And the other boat, they didn't speak English, but what they could say was, drop your bucket. And they're like, no, we have no water. We need water. Can you send water over? And they said, drop your bucket. And they were like, wait, no, and then, they're like, water or whatever. And they said, drop your bucket. And so finally they just did. They dropped their buckets. And when they pulled them up, it was fresh water that they pulled up. And they realized they were right in the mouth of the Amazon River. And it spilled out into the ocean. And so that was all fresh water right around them. And that phrase to me, drop your bucket, means like you can make opportunities from where things are right now. And that's why I was saying this little thing tonight is a perfect example of it. Like everybody could have spent tonight saying like, oh, I wish we were having this, or I wish we were having that. Instead, someone decided to drop their bucket and find fresh water like in this place. If you're so worried that plan A didn't work out, then you never get a chance to live out plan B. Right? Sometimes when things get canceled, which is crappy, let's just say it. It's just like, I kind of look forward to, like, I purposely scheduled my whole high school year so I'd have nothing at the end, so I could do all the things. And now everyone's saying like, oh, the school might be online in the fall again for college. And you're like, I've decided never to do college because of that. And it's like, I mean, let's just say it for a second. It's just like, this has been like super crappy and it's been disappointing, and there's things that nobody got a chance to do. But I think it's a great lesson to learn right now, because that's how life's going to be. And sometimes if you're so worried about things not turning out how you expected, you'll miss the way things actually are. And so, plus you don't even know if plan A was going to be that good. You're comparing your life right now to what you imagined plan A was. You're like, man, we were going to do this, and we were going to do this. And it was like, what if you weren't? What if you were going to tear your other meniscus, right? Like, you don't even know, like, what it was going to look like. So drop your bucket is number one. Like, create something really good from what is instead of what you thought it should be. Number two is kind of goes along with it. I call it take off your shoes. That's just good advice anyways. But it comes from a story from the Bible. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the Bible, but there's a character in the Bible. His name is Moses. And pretty famous, even if you've never read the Bible. There's a movie about him. It's a cartoon. It's on Netflix. And he's just minding his own business, goes up into a mountain and sees a bush that's on fire, and God's in the bush speaking to him. And one of the first things God says to him is, take off your shoes, because the place you're standing is holy ground. And so he does. And there's this other poet lady. You guys think I'm an English teacher. Actually, if any of y'all fail English, give me your English teacher's like number, and I'll tell him or her like, listen, I taught him good, so it's gonna be awesome. This is what she said about this moment, and it'll make sense now. She said this: earth is crammed with heaven. In every common bush is a fire with God. But only he who sees takes off his shoes. The rest just sit around it and pluck blackberries. So take off your shoes in my mind means live in gratitude. The happiest people I know are thankful people. Gratitude is not a holiday. It's like a way of soul-satisfying living. That's just like what it is. And if you're looking for those ways that you've been blessed, that life's been good to you, that God's been good to you, however you see it, man, it's just take off your shoes. Like, see the good that's there. Okay, number 3 is take compassionate detours. We have a family motto in our family, and it goes like this. Jenny and I moved to Hawaii right after we got married. Her mom grew up there, and when we got married, she said, you'll never understand our family unless you live in Hawaii. And so I was like, okay. And mathematically, it did not make sense for us to go. And I'm not advising this to people, but because really we could have gone bankrupt and ruined our life. But we just packed up all our stuff. We put it in her brother's basement, which ended up flooding and ruining all the stuff. So our $200 couch is out. But we packed up all our stuff and we just moved over there with nowhere to live. It was so crazy. We found a place, shared a house with 2 other couples that just all lived in the same house. It was actually one of the funnest times of our life, just living on like white bread and mac and cheese. Like, it was so good. But we were on the beach, so it was like, this is the best life. But one day when I was over there, this big poly dude said to me this phrase that's now become like our family phrase, and it goes like this: stuff no matter, people matter. And I was like, that's my life phrase from now on. I was like, can I borrow it from you? And he was like, yeah. And so we do it, and even our little kids know it. Like, you ask our 4-year-old, like, hey, what matter? he'll say people matter, right? And that's the truth, right? Experiences and people will always be more important than money and things. So every day, take a compassionate detour. If people become the center of your life, it will be such a full and good life. Stuff is good, stuff is cool, everyone's got stuff, but just make sure that's not number one. If people are number one, you will have such a good life. Compassion for people. Take a detour from what you were gonna do to like learn to lift and love other people. And the fourth thing is I got it from my mom, and it's pretty simple. It's be all in. And whatever you're gonna do, be all in. Jumping downstairs, be all in. This is evidence right here. If someone's all in, you know. If it was a little jump down the stairs, he wouldn't have that crutch. My mom went to Switzerland together with my dad one time, and they stayed in this like Airbnb that was like up in the Swiss Alps. And speaking of the Alps, why did it snow this morning, this summer? I just looked over and I was like, what happened? Anyways, up in the Swiss Alps, they're checking into this place, and there's on the wall this picture of a guy hang gliding like through the Alps. And my mom was like, that looks so legit. And he was just like, I can take you if you want. This old dude, I can take you if you want. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, if you meet me here at 5 a.m. tomorrow, I'll take you. And then my dad's like, I'm sleeping in, I'm not going. So she's like, that's fine. So she meets him at 5 a.m. They take his little rickety truck up high up in the mountains to this big field. And this field has like cows and goats in it. It's like legit Switzerland. This dude is like 60 years old with this big long beard, can hardly speak English. He's like unfolding the hang glider thing and starts to get strapped in. And then he says, okay, when I tell you to run, you run. And it's a cliff that's like a straight drop, like a couple thousand feet, just boom, sheer cliff. And there is this metal stake hammered in right at the edge of the cliff with this red ribbon. And he says, I'm gonna watch the wind. And when it's blowing right, I'm gonna tell you to run. And I need you to run and not stop. If you stop at the edge, we die. You have to run straight off the edge of the cliff. And he's like, everything in your mind and soul and body is going to scream at you to stop. But you gotta go. You promise? And she's just like, yeah, I promise. So they are just strapped into this thing. And is she thinking at this point, is this dude even a hang glider? Like, I don't even know who this guy is. And then all of a sudden the wind blows and it just starts flapping the red ribbon and he goes, goal! And she's like, yeah! And just runs right off the edge of the cliff. And then she said, then we flew. The wind picked them right as they ran off. And she said, most incredible experience of my life. And she says, but I learned this. Had I never run off that cliff, I never would have gotten a chance to fly. So whatever you do, like, run. Be all in whatever you choose to do. It's the only way that you're going to fly. It's the only way it's going to be satisfying. That only works if you know that the journey is more important than the destination. It only works if you know that there's no expected destination. It's just who you become in the journey. Then if it's a failure, if it's not what you hoped, it was still worth being all in for it because of who you became. And let me just read you this. See, English. This is my guy. This one you're just gonna love so much. That have to do with all of those times. I want you to think about times where you're gonna drop your bucket, times where you take off your shoes, times when you're gonna take compassionate detours, and times when you're gonna be all in. And then this is what I hope at the end. My guy James Whistler said this once: hang on the walls of your mind the memory of your successes. Take counsel from your strength, not your weaknesses. Think of the good jobs that you've done. Think of the times when you rose above your average level and carried out an idea or a dream or a desire which you had, for which you deeply longed. Hang those pictures on the walls of your mind and look at them as you travel the roadway of life. I hope at the end, when you look back and say, I lived deliberately, therefore I lived, you could look on the walls of your mind and see those pictures. Hang them up. Hang up your successes on your walls and look at them occasionally as you live your life. Say, man, remember when I did that good thing? Remember when I went for that? Remember when I took that compassionate detour? Remember? and just keep looking at him and live a life like that. And I think you'll just live just that soul satisfying life. I wish y'all the best. This is cool. I never would have gotten a chance to meet y'all had Plan A been canceled. So I like this Plan B. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be with y'all. Hope our paths cross again somehow. Who knows? Ours better. Or I'm gonna be mad at you. And I just wish y'all the very best. Congratulations on a good accomplishment and
Woo!
everything up and coming. So,